what is your topic for class this evening?
Topic today was message to the African male.
Good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good one. Yeah, so class is starting now.
I mean, well,
okay.
Before I can get into it, but just right now, I wanted to go into basically current situations going on in the world. As you can see,
right.
The sister just won the Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. There was many Oscars that was won for that movie, but she won it for 12 Years as a Slave. And I find it very odd that a lot of our people are like basically giving praise to that as if that's a good thing, and it's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
It's no different than Halle Berry winning for Monsters Ball. When she won for that, it was a degrading image. You have to play a slave, and you have to play a negative image in order to get a role. Right. Bottom line, I don't understand how we're not getting it. That's not a good thing. It just I said this to someone on Facebook. I said, if she would have played in, let's say, a movie about the Haitian Revolution, you would have never heard of her.
Exactly.
These big budget movies you see getting put together, the 12 Years a Slave, The Butler, Django, these are big budget films for a reason. They put a lot of money into movies like this because they have to push a certain image of black people. They have to. And as long as we're feeding it, they have to keep putting it out because we accept whatever they create and whatever image they have of us, we accept it. It's like still accepting the word African American. It's no different. Right. If a woman turns around, right, they could make a movie about a stripper right now, and a random sister, Viola Davis, can play a stripper all of a sudden, and she won an Oscar because it was a struggling stripper. I'm like, but she played a stripper. You know what I'm saying? But and that's what's going on in our society, in our people, and that's indicative of American society, is that you have to put one group beneath in order to bring up the European, system. In order to bring up the European race, I have to make these group of people look like the second class or inhuman as they try to make it out to be. Right. It's the bottom line. We have to also take into effect the brother that just came out and said he was gay. The football player, he's not a brother no more, because once you say you're gay, you're falling in a whole different status. Because you can't be gay and black. You got to be either or. Because when you're gay or whatever you are, you fall in a whole different law. Words can't be used against you. You can't be harmed in any form or fashion. That's federal crime. Hate crimes are federal crime. If I kill as I said before, if I kill a black person, that's not a federal crime. That's just, you just killed a nigga. And so when you're dealing with this brother Michael Sam that came out, he's a football player, and that's the homosexual agenda. And you have the Sean Collins that came out and said he was a homosexual. That's the homosexual agenda. All of these men that are coming out, the Frank Oceans and the black MMA player, he's also a homosexual. They all are black. None of them are white. That's an agenda. Why is it that all of them have to be black in order to prove a point? No, you're not proving a point. You're not even exercising freedom. You're just basically creating an agenda to get black men or just black people, period, to be more comfortable with that lifestyle. With that type of degradation, and people have to understand something. Homosexuality creates a zero, or not even zero, a minus birth rate. The more homosexuals you have, the less babies are being born. That's right. That's a what's called a canceling out process. It's like an equation. You have to cancel out certain numbers in order to get to the actual problem. When you're trying to, you're solving an equation, you got to cancel out certain numbers, the likes, to get to the equation. Or to get to solve that problem. Whereas when we're dealing with homosexuality, you have to, two men coming together, they both cancel each other out. Two women coming together, they both cancel each other out. So why is it that I'm seeing sisters have classes calling the president of Uganda saying that he is homophobic, when if you do your research on homosexuality in Africa, there was some very hellacious things being done to African men by slave masters during the time of our bondage. And for you to even because in a way you're co-signing it. You're saying it's okay. It was okay for it to be done to us in slavery, so therefore it's now carrying over to what we're seeing right now. So you're saying we should allow something that was done to us on a negative way, rapings. We should allow that to go on in the mother, the earth, Africa.
Mhm.
That's ridiculous. And a lot of us that call ourselves conscious, that's sick. That's a sick mindset. You're not conscious if you're co-signing homosexuality. You're still asleep because you don't realize less babies are being born. We're already at the last point of our genes genetically, and you're saying it's okay for two men to have sex and not produce a child, or two women to have sex and not produce a child. It doesn't. Adoption is not going to get it. You need to still have kids being born. That's the purpose of men and women coming together, is that there's some type of population refilling of the earth.
Right.
And so for them to make it, for them to get us to like something, is that they want us to cut off our birth rate. They want us to go minus, because Caucasians, Europeans are at the minus already. Whereas with us, we're at a plus, but the more homosexuals you see, it will get into the negative.
Right.
So we have to learn to not fall for certain things. You know, and then you have there's a show out right now. I'm covering certain things that I'm seeing, and it's kind of sick. There's a show out right now with the sister Gabrielle Union that comes on BET. You know what I'm talking about?
Being Mary Jane or something like that.
Yeah, Being Mary Jane. It's like the mindset is that I have to. It's okay for me to be a whore, a black woman. In order for a black woman to be on TV, she has to be a whore.
Mm-hmm.
From Scandal, of course, the Negro Bedwench, to Being Mary Jane.
Right.
Bottom line, I'm trying to understand how sisters are thinking it's okay to watch shows like this. Explain yourself. Because you're watching it, which means at the end of the day, you could say it's only for entertainment. At the end of the day, subconsciously you're going to internalize what's being said covertly to you. That's ridiculous. If you're not a whore, why do you think it's okay to watch one of yourself on TV?
Because people are out of touch. I mean, especially if you don't mind me saying, I don't know in what context to actually put this, because when we deal with this particular society, it's so random to call black women, African American women, and when you try to relate to who you actually are, it's always a stigma, some kind of stigmatism put towards it. But I noticed that a lot of women, honestly, don't have an identity. They are suffering from what's called identity crisis. Mm-hmm. And the reason you know that is if you look on many postings, websites, any form of media, you will always see an African woman with her hair in the image of the beast, but you will see an African man with his hair natural. That there is a problem. That's a problem already. It was like one of the postings you put up before, and you were talking about, what is this? I don't even watch television. But the thing is, I think they were talking about, Scandal with Kerry Washington. And I just, I would just read the post, and I'm looking at everybody's excitement over watching Scandal, and I'm like, y'all so caught up in this woman who, for one, when you look at it, it's modern day slavery right in your face. Nothing has changed whatsoever, okay? She is what we would refer to as a house nigger. okay?
Mm-hmm.
The definition of a house nigger, because you're a bad woman in the house. You are taking care of all of their business. You're not in the field. You don't have to do the liaison work whatsoever. You're right there, case in point, at that man's hands, whatever. And you got every woman that I know, personally in my own inner circle, like people I've grown up with, who are so excited, oh, girl, I can't wait until Scandal come on because Olivia Pope did this, did that, da, da, da. And somebody got very upset with me because I told them, I said, you know, I'm starting to feel like you wish you was Olivia. Is it something you're not telling me? Is it something I'm missing? What you mean by that? What I mean by that is, if it was a black man or African man doing that, you would have this internet in an uproar. Black women would be aggravated. They would be upset. They would be so angry about what's going on, but yet it's still, when it's one of us, you're okay with it. I'm not okay with any of it because, once again, it's another form of genocide. They hitting you from the mental, they hitting you from the physical, and they definitely took your spiritual down. And you just at such a low state that now, even though you're in your own relationship with the African man, you are secretly desiring to be with this beast. You secretly desiring to put yourself in the place of this woman. You want to live in a fantasy world. It's like what Baba was saying about Alice in Wonderland. This is exactly how people are. This is what they want to do. They don't want to face the reality. The reality of it is that we are so divided. We are constantly. Hold on for one moment, please. Just one moment.
Right. No, we are. Now, I was just going to pick up what you said. We're very divided in terms of ourselves, in terms of relations. But I think that Scandal, we beat this subject with a dead horse at the end of the day, but Scandal basically feeds a lot of sisters' subconscious desire to be with the slave master, to be with the oppressor. I didn't say every one of them. I said some, and it's starting to become a lot. Because Scandal, if there wasn't a lot of ratings, then it wouldn't exist. And so you're having a subculture of sisters that watch that, and they're feeding into that. They can make the excuse that they're only watching it because it's entertainment, but again, you're still subconsciously feeding in, and you're internalizing this in your subconscious mind, and eventually you will act on it. Because you may not go get a white man, but you begin to, let's say you're in a relationship with your man, a black man, all of a sudden you decide to look at him as like, you get attitude with him for no apparent reason. He comes home and now you want to fight him over something that never even happened. See, those are these are divisive. The TV, the system that is the TV, that idiot box is a very divisive structure that has been created to basically create. Number one, as we look at the news, that's a propaganda situation because it's feeding the sentiments of the people. And when we're looking at shows like this, where anytime we're on TV at this point, we either have to coon ourselves out, we doing buck dancing, we doing bed winching, we whoring, we somewhere in the house somewhere, we in Master's house, but we have to understand that we're not being able to see this correctly. And a lot of us know what's going on, but at the end of the day, you accept it. We have to accept that there are some people out here, not all African people are good at this point. There are some black devils out here that accept it and feed into the situation, and they will spread this situation like a disease. Because then all of a sudden now you want to have scandal parties and discussions about something that is very demonic to see for our people to see. Because it's the norm for us to see ourselves in that light. That's why we don't see anything wrong with it. If something was not normal to you, you would point like, that's not normal. Automatically going to say, that's some not normal stuff. We will say that. But when it comes to something like that, it's like, example, when several years back, when all of a sudden a lot of sisters was feeding into the mindset that black men, there was a shortage on black men and not good black men out there, all of a sudden they put the propaganda piece out that, why don't you go get your white man with the movie Something New with Sanaa Lathan. And a lot of sisters fell for that too. That's propaganda. Movies are meant to invoke certain type of emotions inside of you, whether you accept that or not. There's no movie you just look at and it's just whatever. It's everything you're looking at has a purpose and a reason behind it. That's why they put so much money into certain type of movies, because they're meant to create something inside of you that at some point you're going to act on it. So that we have to see that. Our sisters have to see it, and we have to have real dialogue. I'm not into co-signing everything a black woman says. I'm not into that shit. If you're saying something that makes no sense, I'm not going to co-sign what you say. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything I say either, but we have to have a common ground and realize that we're separated and we're divided for historical reasons. Historically, we were divided, and we're still being divided right now with TV shows and all these things going on right now. And we have to come to a common ground and talk about, okay, how we're going to come together, and we have to pinpoint how we were divided historically and stop playing the blame game and stop playing the cosign game at the same time. I don't have time to look at brothers cosign everything a woman says, even though you know what she said and did was stupid. That's not good.
Right.
That's not going to solve anything. Again, I don't want you co-signing everything I say. If I say something wrong, it's your job to come to me and say, yo, brother, what you said wasn't cool, it was disrespectful, and it was out of line. That's how we're going to solve our problems. And it's what's called is the first foundation is respect. If respect is not established within any situation with any sister or brother, you have nothing to stand on. It's like sitting in a house with quicksand. Everything looks good on the outside, but eventually it will begin to sink. Okay? Bottom line, eventually it will begin to sink. You're going to sit there like, okay, things are falling apart, and I don't know why. It's because that person, either you don't respect them or they don't respect you. Respect is number one. That's the number one thing is respect. And you have to also connect yourself with someone who's worthy of being respected. Because there are some brothers and sisters out there who don't give a damn about themselves no matter what you tell them. I don't care what book you make them read or what documentary you point them out to. They're not going to respect themselves. They've accepted the ratchetness and the ignorance that they put forth, and they live out. That's the bottom line that we have to also accept, too. We can't make excuses for people who don't want to make the change, who want to stay asleep. That's the thing that I have a problem with, is us making too many excuses. When we made the excuse for Nicki Minaj, a lot of sisters I noticed made excuses for Nicki Minaj when she disrespected Malcolm X. I think what she did was very disrespectful. Nobody said anything about that. People were like, well, let's just not look at it. I'm like, what? First of all, if you don't see things, this is psychology. If I don't look at something as a problem and I don't point it out, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it's okay for us to do it. If I don't try to solve the problem and say to our people, look, there's the problem with what this sister's doing. Okay? It's not wrong for us to point this sister out and say that was the negative stuff that she did, and it should be seen as such. It needs to be pointed out as such as well. That's what we have to start doing. It's time out for us to start ignoring, because the longer you're ignoring something, eventually it's going to get right in your face, and it's going to be nothing you can do about it because you let it get to that point. That's the bottom line. We're letting things get out of hand. You know, you had the brother the little brother that got killed for no apparent reason by this white man, and they give this white man some weird sentence. They found him not guilty of killing the little boy, but he's guilty of the three men, right? Right. I'm looking at that like, that is ridiculous. It's almost like, this is just from my perspective, it's almost like they didn't want another riot to start off from, another protest and whatnot. So they just said, let's just give these niggas something to work with. That's what they did.
Right.
They can give a shit about a black life in this society. About our kids, they don't give a damn. We got the sister right now that's on trial for just shooting a gun up in the air. She's facing 60 years of her life for just shooting a gun up in the air. And you got George Zimmerman who got off and shot a boy cold blood and that boy did nothing to him. They found, come on, it was a test that was revealed during that trial that showed, number one, that Trayvon Martin didn't do nothing to him, never touched George Zimmerman. He just got shot. He went out and actually hunted down this little boy, Trayvon Martin, and shot him. And the thing is that right now, mentally, we're allowing certain things to go on. We're allowing it, and they see that we're allowing it, so they'll just keep doing it. And prayer, you can go to church, you can go to your mosque and pray about it. That's not going to do it. That's not going to stop them from killing more of your kids. Okay? The only way for me to do something like that to you is if I know I can get away with it. If I know I can walk up on you and punch you right in your face, I'm going to do it to you. You know, if I know I can take you out somewhere and shoot you dead in the street, or say that this is something happened to me, and it's called the stand your ground law, then I'll continue to do it because I know I can get away with it. Whites have been getting away with killing our kids. And this is a very recent thing. It's called, as we say, it's a pattern. It's a pattern because psychologically they feel in this system of racism, white supremacy, they can get away with it. The system's set up for them to get away with it, white privilege, and the system is set up for us to not get away with anything. Because why would they keep creating laws if they're not trying to basically control what specific people are doing? And most of those laws deal with what we're trying to do to survive.
Right.
You know, that's the thing when I said I was going to do a class, and I'm doing it right now, a message to the African male, is that at the age of 21, if you made it to that point, then you should clap for yourself. Because you have to realize that we're not even supposed to make it to that point. I'm Generation X. I'm not even supposed to be 32 at this time. I'm supposed to already be dead. And the fact that you made it past that point, of that they said that the fact that they're already estimating when they're going to kill you off is crazy. And you don't even think, you don't even see of what they're trying to do. Okay? The fact that you made it to 21 is something that you could hang your head up high about. You understand? It's been so many different people in this country that have gotten what we call the set-asides. The only people who did not get set-asides is the African male, the black man in this society. Everybody has gotten it. Everybody, even the sisters. And when I say the sisters, I'm talking about welfare. I'm talking about a divisive weapon that they use to separate us in the society. They got us. They got the African woman to see the African male as being obsolete in the household. Okay? They got her to just use us as just a sex object, not someone who is a part of the African family structure in the society. Very easy to do. Because if I can give you a handout, I give you, in Texas they call it TANF, Texas Assistance to Needy Families. I can give you food stamps. I give you a WIC, and I give you all these things to set aside. I give you all these benefits. All I can say to you now is this: as long as you can have all this. As long as you don't have no man in your house, everything gonna be cool. Which means that the man in your house now is no longer a black man; it's a white man because it's his sister. Exactly. But our sisters, right? But our sisters don't see that. You have to realize that everybody has gotten set aside. I'm going to say the white woman has gotten set aside since the women's liberation movement. When you have the sexual harassment laws, realize the term sexual harassment is a very latter day term. For lack of a better word, it's a very latter day term. Sexual harassment that law started in the 70s when whites of the feminist movement was using that to point not at white men, but really at black men, because they started getting black women to complain about something that was going on to them, and so that created the sexual harassment law. You understand? Then realize their set-asides was, the right to vote and all these different things, and they began to be known as minorities. See, now when you say the word minority, people automatically think they're talking about black people, but in reality, white women are also minorities as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they get certain benefits, and they take those benefits home to their man. You got white men who have gotten set aside from the elite, from the government, from the late 40s, early 50s when they came from war. They got certain they got certain funding, the war funding, that they were able to move into what's known as Levittown now. You know, when they were able to have the FHA loans from the 60s, from the late 60s into the early 70s. The FHA loans was what we know as white flight. That created the white flight phenomenon. That's a set aside, and that cut off a point where, remember, I'll use Houston as an example. Whites lived in Third Ward. Whites lived in South Park from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 30s, 40s, and 50s. They lived in these areas. Remember, the Jews still live on the southwest side. For those who live in Houston, the Jews still live on the southwest side of Houston. But it's funny, once you get to a certain point on South Geston and Bravewood, they cut it off, and now you're in the hood.
True.
You understand? Bottom line, every other society that lives in this country has gotten set aside except the black man. When you're dealing with Asians who come over here, they get capital to start their businesses. When you deal with Middle Easterns, they get capital to start up their businesses. When you deal with the East Indian, they get up capital to set up their business. How is this going on? How are they getting capital why would they have to leave their country if they was already getting, if they were already having money, why would they leave their country in the first place?
Mhm.
You understand that? Everybody, even a good amount of Africans who come over here, and they are brothers and sisters, but they get certain benefits because status-wise they don't fall under black. They fall under white-based or Caucasoid to get certain benefits. Now they're not going to get socially accepted by whites, but at the end of the day, they get certain benefits because it's a trade-off that started during war in the early 1920s and 15s and 20s during the World War times. Okay? Fast forwarding now to the black man. Black man has never gotten anything separate from the government at all. Never.
Right.
Everything that we've had to deal with, from the heroin era in the 70s to the crack era in the 80s, has separated us from our families to what's going on right now in the prison system, which is really a whole different slave system going on right now. Because realizing, for those who don't know, that same prison system is being set up on that stock market. Anything that's on that stock market is big business because they're making money off of it, which is the same way they make money off of you during slavery. No different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Realize, as a man in this society, you are still, to this day, they will not let you not have responsibility to take care of your kids, but they won't allow you to get a job. Okay? They're going to make it very easy. Do realize, as our sister Michelle Alexander said, it's easier for a white man with a criminal record to get a job, more easier than it is for a black man who has no criminal record to get a job. And that is indicative of American society. And do realize that's done on purpose, of course we know. But we as a people have to no longer ignore this. As a man in this society, you have to keep your head up regardless of what's going on, know your history, and know how the chess game is being played, because we as men are still being checkmated every single time. Do realize this system, the devil's system, the European system, is set up for you to fail. So if I know that the deck is already stacked against me, at the end of the day, I have to find a means in order to beat that game. We have to accept that this is what it is. White man's the devil. Okay, we get that. But at the end of the day, how are you going to beat that game? How are you going to set yourself up to win instead of setting yourself up to fail? Okay, first foundation is education. You have to have knowledge of self. The first level is knowledge of self. Okay, And you have to start from square one. Square one is foundation, and the foundation is knowledge of self. And through knowledge of self, you have to have respect for self. If you do not have respect for self, you will allow other people of other ethnic backgrounds, mainly Europeans, to tell you who you are. Those are the only people on the planet that, the only type of people on the planet that allow other people, again, reiterate what I'm saying, to tell them who they are, or people, or is a society of people who do not respect themselves. If I do not respect myself, I will allow a race of people to tell me that my history started in slavery. Okay? And you have to protect the woman you are with. Well, first of all, get a woman worthy of being with. Okay? Get a woman worthy of who is, number one, that respects you. First of all, if she doesn't respect you, don't waste your time. Move on. And if you have to be with yourself for right now, be with yourself for right now. But do realize that time period is needed for you to build yourself up. That's what it's about. It's okay. Look, I'm with self. Now it's time to build self. I'm realizing that I'm a target. Now it's time for me to make moves in order to build up my status of self. So women will no longer be waiting on you. They'll be checking for you. That's going to change that mindset. Once you have that cipher set up, that first point of the cipher from you, and then going into the woman, when the child is coming in, give her, the woman that you are with, that knowledge of self, so that she becomes a teacher of that child. But the first responsibility is you. That's the first responsibility comes with you, comes with your education of self first. And if we are not getting to that point, then we are, as the old rap saying goes, we're headed for self-destruction. Regardless of what our brothers the Moors are saying about status, and I agree with that. We as a people, if we're trying to get reparations and trying to get back what was stolen from us, from our land to different things, we have to come together as an African nation, whether it be through dual citizenship or whether it be just establishing a sole African nation or a black nation. It has to be something that's worth standing on. The problem is that's not stopping this system of racism, white supremacy from kicking your ass, from taking your kids, from killing your kids. You have to get back also as an African male to have the protection mindset. I talked about how do we protect our youth in one of my classes, because we don't see ourselves as protectors no more because our role has been redefined. You know, we have the sisters now being more masculine, and then you have the men being more feminine. So the role has reversed. It's not, that has nothing to do with a whole paradigmal structure of the planet going into a sun cycle. That's us accepting what's being put forth to us in this society based on propaganda and the homosexual agenda. Our roles are being reversed because of that situation. And we have to get back to who we are. It's a redefinition. A revolution starts with redefinition as well. It's not just about picking up a gun and go shooting a white man. It's about redefinition of self. It's redefining who we are. And within redefining who you are, it's finding exactly where I start from and realizing as I'm redefining myself what my job is to myself and then to the woman that I am with. All this stuff is necessary. If you don't think it's necessary, then again, you are now a problem to yourself and to your people. You know, we cannot look at rappers as an example of what a man is supposed to be because they are now the degradation of our race. We do realize that subculture was created based upon disenfranchisement and lack of education, but that's a degradation to our race now. Hip-hop was once a culture that signified a way out of a situation through education as well, through knowledge of self, but now it's just sex music, okay? And we have to accept it for what it is and look at that to our kids and say, that is not who you're supposed to be. And that type of language is not going to come out of your mouth. Make yourself as an African man, African male, responsible for yourself and being also a provider of self and your family. Go back to being the protector and the provider that you was once built to be, that you once knew yourself to be. Just realize that, again, the target is on you the day you're born. I knew that. You understand? But don't allow that to be the end point of your life. Don't let that be, okay, it's going to happen anyway, so let me just go ahead and smoke some weed and get some drink and I'm good. No, that ain't going to, no. Clouding your better judgment is not going to solve that problem. It's only going to make it worse because you're wasting time. The most valuable thing you have is time. Money can come and go, and sisters may come and go in your life, but the most important thing you have in your life is your time. Do not waste it on trivial things that's not going to solve your problems. And do not surround yourself, because something our brother Will Smith said, a lot of people may not like him, whatever, that's your opinion. But he said, look at 3 or 4 people who are around you consistently. They define you. Or if they're not defining you, you need to take a step back from those people. Productivity is important. If you are not productive in your life, then you are regressive in your life. That is very important to know, because you are wasting time worrying about things that have nothing to do with your progression. Okay, white man's a devil, but at the end of the day, that does not stop me from finding a way to provide for my family and protect my family. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, if he's that much of my God, I might as well just go crawl in the hole like a ostrich. Put my head down, put my head in the dirt in the sand. I'm done. That ain't see, and that's not the type of man that I am. That's me. I refused to fail. You know, and I was brought up in the hood. I was raised in the trap, as the game said. I was raised in the trap. You know, I wasn't supposed to make it out. I don't know who. I went from the New York hood to the Houston hood. You know, and I wasn't supposed to have the information I have in my brain. I wasn't supposed to be able to do what I'm supposed to do for my people. They made it that way. But guess what? I found the way out, and any one of our people, any one of our men can do the same thing. There's no excuse at this point. Once you have knowledge of self, it's time for you to teach the world, and at the end of the day, respect yourself and teach the woman that you're with so she can teach those seeds. Everything is supposed to be according to plan. Don't allow no one else to come into your life to tell you that that's old. That's not old, because when we were doing it correctly, we had no problems. The only way we started getting problems is through integration. Our biggest problem has been integrating. We thought that once we integrated, you know, because the civil rights era was good because we fought for the right to do something, because Jim Crow was not allowing us to do certain things. To separate equal law was messing with our right to have equal rights. But all of this intermingling with the European and buying from his stores destroyed what nation we had within a nation in this society, from the Black Wall Street and et cetera. That was a problem, and it's still a problem to this day, because we can't wait to buy their stuff. We can't wait to buy their sneakers. We can't wait to buy their electronics and all these things, et cetera. And we feel like once we get a certain amount of money, it's time to move into their neighborhoods. And that ain't going. That's not it either. It ain't gonna stop. Again, it ain't gonna stop racism, white supremacy from kicking your ass, because it's kicking our ass right now, and we need to accept it. But we need to reverse it and start. I'm not saying go out into River Oaks right now or Woodlands and go shoot up a white man. I'm saying you need to start protecting yourself and start protecting your people, and have a solid foundation of self. Does anyone have any questions?